undisturbed. So that means if they were sick and they were flailing and they were moving around, you would have thought that they would have beat the grass down. And even after a couple of days, that grass isn't going to have stood itself back up. Grass is really resilient, but
not likely. No, and I don't know how thoroughly they examined the bodies, and of course, my research into iodine poisoning indicates that it affects different people differently.
Okay.
Right.
So not everybody's going to have diarrhea, for example, but and it does. It's going to take a few days, probably at least, to die. So that would lend credence if they were iodine capsules, if they were taking it for that reason, that they were just tainted. And so they just were poisoned by bad drugs, and which happens even today. I mean, in modern, in 66, obviously controls, especially in the third world.
Brazil.
Brazil. So it's entirely possible that they just got a bad batch.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
So the other one of the other fantasy theories out there is that these guys were time travelers.
What?
Yeah. So, okay, and so this is the thing, right, is that, like, my reaction, too, is like, what? I don't actually understand how that explains anything, except for I found one reference to one scientist who was also supposedly a time traveler that wore a raincoat and lead eye protection. But I couldn't find any reference to this this apparent scientist, time traveler, anywhere else. It was just in this one thing.
I was going to say, it's one of those things on the internet that you find the blurb, but you never find anything to support it.
And, in this article particularly that I was reading, he was making all these pop culture references, and it was kind of like, well, maybe I've just missed out on this, on this particular reference. Maybe somebody out there listening can tell me what, that reference was to, but I don't know. We don't know at all.
No,
and I couldn't,
I've never heard of that.
Googling it didn't give me any insight.
Yeah. So anyway, how does this theory work? So these guys went off, they traveled in time a bit, they popped back into our time on the top of this hill, and the experience killed them? Is that
I don't know. They thought that they had glimpsed something into the wrinkle of time, and they took these capsules to help them transition or something, and it failed catastrophically, and they died.
Yeah.
So again, this is one of those little blurb theories that I thought I'd throw in there because it's vaguely interesting.
Yeah, it's it's fun. It's really kind of fun to read the stuff that people come up with, even though it's obviously some of it outlandish.
Yeah.
Time travel.
That's all of the UFO theories. There's one other kind of blurb that I kind of talked about already that was that we don't know that these notes are actually pertaining to the day that they died or to their death at all. The thing that none of these theories really explain is there's a little blurb in their note that says protect the metals.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
So
what does protect metals mean?
I don't know. We don't know. One of the other theories, which I think is probably the most reasonable, since they were UFO enthusiasts, they were kind of into the electronics of the time. And, they said, we're going to go buy a car, which would be the reason that they might have a lot of money. So the relatives weren't questioning, why did you leave with all this money? Why did you take your life savings? But that they were going to do a deal that had to do with radioactive metals or materials of some kind. And that perhaps they did take iodine or something of that nature to protect them from the radioactivity of the metal. And they went and they did the deal and got these metal and then, died for whatever reason from the iodine. And who knows where they got these capsules. It may have been the person who was doing the deal anyways. It may have been it could have been a way to make a quick buck, right? Oh, I have these radioactive materials you guys are looking for. Here, I'm going to send you some pills to help protect you from the radioactivity. And then, take the money and just follow them for a day while they die slowly. And then take your radioactive material back. I don't know.
Supposed radioactive material.
The theoretically radioactive material. Yeah, but so that's really one of my big problems. They were waiting for someone to tell them to put the mask on.
Some kind of
signal to put the mask on. And they talk about protecting the metal. Kind of in the feeling that I get of it is protected at all costs. Right? Those are two things that none of these theories really speak to. The fact that their notes imply that there are other people involved.
Yeah.
And that there's something they're trying to, get. I guess, the metals they're trying to protect.
Well, this whole thing, from the outside, as we've said, there's these elements that seem so far-fetched. But if these guys are TV repairmen and they're into electronics, probably the big technology that everybody could get was like a ham radio or something at that time.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if they weren't doing what a lot of people do these days, the equivalent of getting on a forum or getting on a chat channel and chatting, and somebody realizing that, wait, these guys are kind of naive, and I could make a couple of bucks on them.
Yeah.
And whether it was they intended to, give them these pills and they were just knockout pills and they just intended to knock them out and take their stuff, or they intended to kill him. I don't know which way. They didn't and it went bad, or they did. Who knows? But it seems like that's the most plausible thing that I can get out of this, is that somebody was stringing them along, and then when they died, just to add to it, to make it seem weirder, to throw the police off the case, they took those silly little glasses and put them on their faces when they left them dead. Mm-hmm. But that's the only thing that I can ever see that makes any coherent sense in this whole thing. That's the problem. None of it is coherent.
Yeah, it's all kind of just like slapped on there.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, 2 guys found dead for no real reason. Okay, that's a mystery. Oh, also they had towels. Okay. Also, they were wearing these weird lead masks.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, they had a note in their pocket that was like totally inexplainable. Oh, okay. Oh, and also on top of that, my problem with the suicide pact, right, is that they bought a refundable bottle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they seem to intend to return.
Yes.
It's not like they went out there with the intention of never coming back. I mean, maybe they did.
Well,
but surely there's an option to just say, oh, no, we just want a glass of water, or no, we'll take we won't, pay the deposit. We're just going to take
why are you going to worry about the deposit?
Well,
or the receipt for a water bottle if you're not coming back.
But yeah, at the same time, though, I mean, haven't you gotten a receipt and stuffed it in your pocket, and then at the end of the day, you take it out and then you throw it away?
The impression that I had was that it was like you had to deliberately say, that they would say, okay, do you want the receipt to return this, or are you just going to take it with you? Mm-hmm. That was my impression. And, that could be totally wrong. It could be that they just printed out a receipt and
they just did it.
Yeah.
That could totally be the case. But, in my little world, these 2 men who are like super excited about getting something traipse out into the wild with they're like, we're gonna come back tomorrow and it's gonna be perfect, and we're gonna return this for 10 cents, which is gonna be enough for a bus back to our hometown.
Well, and the bus that they had to ride the bus like 3 hours to get there from
it was
their
3
hometown?
hours.
Yeah, that's a heck of a commute.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It was 160 miles from
yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's true, they were UFO enthusiasts. Maybe they were going out to see if they could find a UFO or something. But obviously something went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
It might be that they were just swindled, like Steve was saying. They were just, somebody gave them some knockout pills so he could take their money and flee. And then, he gave them a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. And they just sort of died.
Yep.
It's entirely possible.
Yep. That's big mystery.
All right.
It's just,
That's a weird one.
Yep.
Well,
that has got, I have to say, so far in the shows that we've done, that probably has the most clues left behind so far that make no sense.
It's just like a menagerie of weirdness.
Yes, I'm giving this one the Menagerie Award.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. But you shouldn't overlook the possibility that maybe these guys decided to just check out. And they decided to commit suicide, and they thought, well, what can we do? And so they just decided to put together a whole pastiche of weird stuff, unexplainable stuff. Well, let's write a cryptic little note. Let's hammer up some lead sunglasses.
That's not the behavior of people who are intending to do themselves in.
True that.
That doesn't hold true to any case that I've ever heard of somebody who's plotting their own demise. I've never heard of anybody saying, well, I'm going to make this as weird as possible.
Yeah, and we talked about recently that guy who disappeared under mysterious circumstances.
Valentich, the pilot?
Yeah.
Yes.
And, he was a UFO enthusiast, and he, we talked about the theory that maybe he faked his own death, and there was, he wanted to go out with a bang, and that's fine. That even seems more reasonable to me as like I'm going to kill myself, but also fake a UFO thing than this, travel 160 miles when you're like pretty broke anyways.
Yeah.
Go make lead masks, which couldn't have been easy. Take capsules.
And I want to speak to the lead masks.
Yeah.
I've read a number of these, and I started thinking, well, are they lead masks? Are they really lead masks? And that's when I was trying to figure out what they look like. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing a bunch of looking around, and I've seen accounts that say they weren't actually lead, but they were tin.
Oh, really?
Which would be much easier to get a hold of than lead.
Yeah, and you could cut them out with a pair of tin snips.
Well, no, these things look like they were hammered out. I mean, it looks like somebody hammered them out, but I don't know that they were really lead.
Yeah.
I think that they might have been. Everybody said, well, those look like the glasses you put on for... I don't know if they were really lead.
They might, I can't really tell. They do look hand hammered, I think, but if you go to like your local fishing store, you can buy those weights that come in like they're cylindrical, almost like a rope. That's
very true. You can buy fishing weights.
Yeah, you can buy those ones that are in a long sort of cord of lead, and you could basically pound that with a sledge till it was flat, and then just cut out your sunglasses from it. So
that's true.
It's entirely feasible to do something like that.
Yeah. Well, just I've seen accounts that go both ways. So
that's fair.
It's another was it's like, well, okay, well, if they're going to protect from radiation in their tin, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Although if they're going to protect from super intense light and not radiation, tin works just fine.
Yes, it does.
Unless there's a lot of heat, and then maybe it melts.
Yeah. Again, we're going down the same rabbit hole.
Yeah. No, I don't have any more theories.
No?
Anything else you want to talk about with this?
No.
So if you have any theories or, have anything to correct us or any more insight into this, you can email us at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website. We've got links. Probably we'll post a couple pictures of the lead masks. And that's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Ta-ta.
This episode of Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by Loose Seals. Instead, it's brought to you by Bauble Bar. Bauble Bar designs premium fashion, jewelry, and accessories to make it easy to experiment with your style and your own kind of whatever. I love jewelry, which you don't know because you don't get to see me, but Bauble Bar has some really, really cute stuff. Better yet, Bauble Bar believes 110% in customer happiness, and they have real people to talk to you if you have any problems or anything like that. Plus, they offer free shipping and returns, which, as you know, is like the best thing in this whole entire world. So if you're interested, go to baublebar.com. That's Bauble, B-A-U-B-L-E, bar, B-A-R.com, and get 20% off by using the promo code SIDEWAYS. And get blingin'. Also brought to you by The Snowman. See it only in theaters on October 20th. It's presented by Universal Pictures. It's a new film based on a terrifying bestseller. I don't like scary movies, but this movie looks amazing. I cannot tell you. I don't want to give you any spoilers or anything like that, but if you've read the book, you know it's super, super scary. So go see it in theaters October 20th.
Thinking Sideways. Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I am Joe, joined as always by
Devin
and
Steve.
And we are going to talk about another really fascinating little mystery. This is a series of really gruesome serial killings that took place in London in the 1880s, and I'm not talking about Jack the Ripper.
Did that already.
Yeah, we did that already. This guy is actually worse than Jack, believe it or not. And the reason I'm doing this is, well, of course, this is October, and it's Halloween month, as you know, and so we decided we're going to talk about mysteries that are gory, creepy, or scary, or
Halloween-style mysteries.
Absolutely, because Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Lean into our true crime nature.
Exactly. I want to give a shout out first to our listener Mary, who I think suggested this back in March 2016. I'm not sure, but she said that we should do a story about the torso in the Thames. I did a little checking on the interwebs, and There's another more recent one, like in 2001, they found a child's torso floating in the Thames River, and it was a big story in the UK.
Let's just say that wasn't the one she was suggesting.
Yeah,
and you picked
I'd
the right
rather
one.
talk about this one than that one.
Yeah, no, it is a better one, yeah. So, Mary, I think you suggested it, so thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. And also, first a warning, this is a very gruesome tale. Would you guys not agree?
Yeah, I'd say, little
Small
standard warning.
Yeah, some listeners may find it disturbing because, well, it is disturbing. So use listener discretion, and if you decide to turn off your iPod and not listen, we won't think any less of you, and we won't make fun of you. So, let's get on with this.
Now that they've turned it off?
Yeah.
No.
Now, let's
make fun of them.
Okay. Okay, what we're talking about is the London torso murders of the late 1880s. These are also known as the Thames torso murders, and less often as the Embankment murders. It took place right around the time that Jack the Ripper was making a name for himself. And as I said before, in my opinion, they were kind of more heinous than Jack the Ripper's work. But for some reason or another, Jack the Ripper is a household name, and nobody's heard of the torso murderer.
Why?
Why? Well, I have theories about that. I'll talk about that a little later, I guess.
Okay,
but,
sure.
But, there's a lot of Jack had a better publicist, perhaps.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe the press could just only focus on one heinous killer at a time, and so they flipped the coin. I don't know.
That actually might be it.
That could be. So let me get into the murders real quick. There weren't quite as many as Jack, so that might account for some of it. The first murder took place in what's called Rainham. It's spelled Rainham. And I think it might be Rainham, but knowing our friends the British, it's probably pronounced rum. So I'm gonna go with Rainham, I guess. Our first body was found in May 1887 in Rainham, which is on the Thames on the eastern outskirts of London, and it's now part of Greater London, but in 1887 it was actually a separate town. So
as with a lot of major cities nowadays.
Yeah, they've absorbed the suburbs.
Yeah.
So it might be more appropriate to call these murders the Thames torso murders, but I don't know. I kind of like the London torso murders better. What do you guys think?
I don't really care.
I'll stick with it.
I mean, anything that says torso murders in it, much frankly, that stands your hair on end, right?
Yeah.
Well, so they found a body. What they found was the torso of a body, which was wrapped in a bundle as found in the river.
I was just going to ask, Joe. Do you remember what it was wrapped in?
No, I don't, actually. I mean, some of them they actually said, like, there was one that was wrapped in black cloth, But
and that's why I was asking, because suddenly I realized I can't remember what this particular one was wrapped in. So.
Nah, just cloth of some sort, I'm sure. But,
sorry, continue on, sir.
Yeah, and then over the next several weeks, other body parts kept showing up, and the police just kept on collecting them. And eventually they were able to piece together an almost complete body. The only things missing were the head and the upper chest.
So like the shoulder area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Naturally, they were not able to determine the cause of death. I mean, geez, maybe it was being like sliced up into a million pieces.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There were no actual signs of violence apart from being chopped up.
I'm sorry. It's a chopped up body. There's some signs of violence right there.
There is kind of that, yeah. And of course, the victim was never identified because the head never turned up, and of course, they didn't have DNA or fingerprinting back in those days.
Of course.
Yeah, and
it had been soaking in the river for a while.
That probably didn't help things too much, huh? I don't know of any attempts that were made to link the body to missing person reports, because I don't even know what they had in terms of missing person reports in those days in London, because it was even that in those days a huge sprawling city it had been going through a huge period of urbanization. A lot of people were flooding from the countryside into London and a lot of other major European cities at that time.
And a lot of them were also shipping out for other kind of work.
Absolutely.
So it was a steady stream in and out.
Yeah, so somebody vanished. It didn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah.
I mean, great times if you're a serial killer. I mean, oh my God.
Maybe that's why there were two of them.
Yeah, or three, or who knows
20
how many.
of them, yeah.
So obviously this person was never identified. It didn't really go anywhere. It didn't become a huge story until a little over a year later when the second torso was discovered. And this happened in the Whitehall area, and the body was discovered, or the torso was discovered. Or no, excuse me, the arm was discovered. September 11th, 1888. You know the date?
Never forget.
Yeah, right arm and a shoulder were found on the shore of the Thames in central London. This is in the Pimlico neighborhood, which I'm sure you all know, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. For our London listeners, I'm not going to do this every time, but between Victoria Railway Station and the Thames, west of Vauxhall Bridge. There wasn't much to be done with the arm since, as I said already, fingerprinting and DNA didn't exist. I assume they either tossed it or maybe they kept it on ice for a while.
Well, they had to have kept it somewhere based on what happened afterwards.
Yeah, you would think. I assume they didn't just pitch it. A police surgeon named Thomas Bond did take note of it, which came in handy about 3 weeks later when the torso